Stories Podcast, your #1 show for everything guitar.
Good evening, good afternoon, good morning. Hello, Podcats. It's us, the Guitar Stories Podcast.
Hello. How is everyone?
I've got a wonky camera. Hang on, let me sort that out. Oh, man, it's good to be back. I've had a very strange week, Dan. How's your week been?
Oh, pretty busy. Still trying to get everything ready for the big move.
Yeah.
As you can see, a lot of boxes still in the background. So, yeah. But it's getting close. We're getting closer. So Monday is the big day.
I suppose we should announce that there is no podcast next week.
Sadly,
because Dan will be in the middle of carrying lots of boxes and guitars gently and gingerly to the new house.
Yeah. And unfortunately, we don't have any kind of internet connection yet in the house. So apparently there was glass fiber, but they said it's not working yet, and they are trying to fix that. But you know how it is. It's very unlikely that they'll be ready by next Tuesday. So we decided it's better safe than sorry. Let's skip that episode and be back in full swing in 2 weeks. So.
Exactly. But in autumn, Big news, Dan, big news. In autumn, I will have fiber optic internet. I signed up for that this week, and it is the most exciting thing I've had happen to me. You know how we should be excited about pedals and guitars and amps and Steve Vai and things like that? The guy came to my house with this mask on. And he said in Austrian German, "Hello, I'm the internet man." And I could have hugged that man until I'd squeezed all the life out of him. I'm like, you are my potential hero right now. And do you know what? They've got these different packages. There's like the starter pack, the family pack. There's one they call Generation, and there's one that's called like Super Duper Mega Pack, which is like 150 euros a month, and it's like the internet happens before it even happens. You know, like back in time. It's downloads 10 gigabytes in like 20 seconds. Like, I wonder if I can justify like setting up a Patreon for the podcast so we could get $150 a month. I don't know if I can. Listeners, viewers, let us know if you'd like to contribute to me having the world's fastest internet. I'm just gonna speak.
So, the question is the fiber. Is it exclusively to you, or do you share that with the fam?
Oh, that's a good question. I'm always up for sharing, Dan,
so
as you know.
All right. Yeah.
Exactly. Let's just put that camera on manual focus before it starts focusing on Bob back there. So, shall we jump straight into the news, Dan?
Let's go.
Straight into the news, everybody. News. Music Messe. Dan, run us through what Music Messe is while I drink from my Guitar Geek mug.
I'm fully surprised that I'm supposed to talk about Music Messe here.
Remember that?
I actually don't know.
Remember that?
Yeah. What did they announce? They announced that they are going to postpone it to 2022. But did they already say which day?
Let me just. I actually made some notes, so I'll go through it. I like the way that some people reported it. They said that Music Messe has fallen a bit flat in recent times, and I hate to take joy. I don't like taking joy in someone else's misfortune, unless they're falling downstairs and it's on a video. But yeah, Music Messe has not been great these past few years. And it says they're going to sort of regroup and re-energize, because they were still great for pro audio and lights, but it just started to die off with guitars particularly, with all the major brands not going there. And you'd know, of course, representing Meinl and Ibanez. And so they've attracted less and less big names. What are they proposing? A recent press release says that the Messe Frankfurt is working closely with the music industry to develop concepts for Music Messe 2022. They want to bring together partners and associates from the culture and creative industries and commit themselves to their core ideals of promoting and making music. Did they call you, Dan?
There you go.
They didn't call me either.
A lot of yeah, well, there you go. A lot of big words. It's interesting because actually a couple days ago, Music Park Leipzig also announced that they're going to skip the 2021 event and are going straight to the planning for 2022. I find the term Music Messe has fallen a bit flat. Very interesting.
It's like saying,
I mean,
I've got some hair, or or there are some boxes in your
a bit
room.
Flat. Yeah. Hello, flat earthers. The Earth is a little bit flat. A bit flat.
I suppose if you look far enough away, it is kind of, but when you get close, it isn't. I'd love to see Music Messe come back because I am just down the road, as are you. I would love to see it happen. However, to move forward Music Messe, I think you have to invite and officially invite YouTubers. You have to, or at least new media, because last time I was there, and I know you're listening. Last time I was there, I saw one of your main representatives hanging around a table of newspaper journalists saying, I don't think this YouTube thing will work, and I think they're really annoying, etc., etc. I'm paraphrasing there, but I wasn't very popular, and luckily they didn't know who I was because I was quite a small channel back then. But yeah, they need to get with the times, man. But see, that's Music Messe. Any more to say about Music Messe, Dan?
I don't know. I mean, Anaheim is a pretty long way to go, and not everyone can come. So I totally appreciate the idea of having an event in Germany that is like kind of in reach for a lot of European guys. On the other hand, it's very broad. It's very generalistic, and in the last years, it hasn't been very pinpointed towards like our interests or my interests, also the interests of companies like Ibanez. So I'm looking forward to kind of hearing more about the concept. Because if you have a smart concept, like, including YouTubers, including new media, I think you've got a good chance in kind of finding your own niche to some point. But if you just try to, reinvent the same old wheel that you've been, driving for 30 years, there's no way that people will be interested at all. And like you said, it has fallen a bit flat in recent years, which means there has been very low attendance. And a lot of like major brands were missing. And if that is the case, you've got to have the big F, the big G, Ibanez, Schecter, Music Man, those kind of companies. In the acoustic realm, you've got to have like, I don't know, Taylor and Martin, those kind of brands, because otherwise, people are not interested in that. They want to check out new products. They want to talk to the reps, and they want to just hang and have a good time and also meet people like you. So... yeah, I mean, if they have the right ideas, why not? But at the moment, I think there's a big question mark behind a lot of events. How they are going to take place in 2021 or 2022, what their main focus will be. So, it will be interesting to see what they come up with. So I'm always open to those kind of events because they provide an added value to the consumers. It's a nice diversion from just buying online.
I am available for consultation, just so you know, Music Messe. I'm relatively affordable compared to Dan, who's 3 times my price. Let's talk about some real news, shall we, Dan? Some real news.
Yeah, sure.
The most important thing that's happened all week, sad news. The guitar auction that Dan and I were messaging each other back and forth saying, I'm really busy, but look at this. And I've got my eye on this.
Someone's
calling. Someone else wants to buy the J-Tursa Shark guitar.
Sorry, it's already gone. I think Tom Quayle bought it. Sorry.
I would have been... You have already confirmed he didn't buy it, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's rush through this because I want to get our guest Richard Shaw on because I am super excited to talk to him tonight. I am... I'm very, very excited about it. But Shark guitar went for £480, which is way, way over the expected price. And it was one of the most popular things. I'm saying this with no authority, by the way. It seemed to be one of the most popular things on the website, even though I then saw one on Reverb for about $300. So it's not as if there's only one in the world. But I didn't get anything. I didn't buy anything. I did put some bids on some pickups, like sort of £15, and I got outbid rather quickly.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not in a sort of cash flow situation to go throwing money at a Shark with 6 strings on it at the moment, but there's another one in June. So we're going to try and get Luke from Guitar Auctions from Gardner Holgate on the show to talk to us about it. Sort of nearer June, I guess, Dan. That would make sense, wouldn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Um,
Maybe we can even go live and kind of do some live coverage of the actual auction. I mean, that would be
that
fun.
would be great. We can sort of outbid each other.
Yeah. No, I want that Ibanez. No, I want that fuzz.
There was some good stuff in that auction. I know that because of the podcast, there were extra people watching. And I kind of shot myself in the foot by doing that, but seeing as I didn't have the money to go anyway, it was fine.
It was like therapy to some degree.
Yeah.
Yeah, but actually the effects, they went for crazy money, and I mean like crazy high. They by far, I mean, there were some bargains. I think you've got a couple pictures at hand, like the PRS.
I would have. We only threw them in the shot. There we go. I'll throw it on there now. There we go.
There you go.
1987.
I mean, how much was that?
The estimate was 1,005, and it went, which is crazy. And it went for 1,450, which is insane.
I mean, that's for a guitar from that age, you know. It's kind of interesting to see that there's kind of guitars that reach like collector's prices nowadays, that they are not being not going up in those crazy dimensions like I would have expected. And for 1,450, I think that's quite a good price for 87. Kind of, was that like pre-factory, I assume?
No idea. I just know that I would expect that to go for a lot more. And then what else have we got? We will have the Jag Stang
and everything.
Jag Stang sold for 700 quid, which is a good price for a Jag Stang right now. You're now seeing them at even $2,000. They're going for.
Holy moly!
Okay. Yeah, and I'm rather upset. I don't want to talk about it anymore, if you don't mind. That's me done with the guitar auctions.
Well, that's I think a couple pedals too.
Couple pedals.
I was interested in the Memory Man pedal.
There we go, and the tube driver.
And also the tube driver. Yeah. But again, they went for quite high amount of money. 260.
The tube driver is a good price,
bucks.
right? That seems like a good price. The tube driver went for £120, and Memory Man went for $260. Memory Man Deluxe, I should say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, fair enough. We didn't win anything, so let's focus on the next auction and see if there are any precious lots that we should consider following.
Absolutely. On to some good news, I guess. The health of the guitar industry is booming. We are very, very healthy right now in the beginner's intermediate sort of level of playing. It's been reported that Fender cannot keep up with their intermediate and beginners level style of guitars. So we've got the Squire range, I guess the lower priced made in Mexico's, even some American-made Fenders, because there are beginners that start, luckily, with a really, really good instrument. And Fender can't supply them, which is odd, which is, I suppose, if Fender are having that issue, then it must be reflected everywhere with other brands.
Yep. Definitely. What I find interesting is that they wrote that sales of the brand's sub 500 pounds models grew by 92% from March to October last year. That is a crazy amount. Yeah. I mean, 92%. But it shows that people, being kind of quarantined at home and not able to travel, they kind of thought about other hobbies and other activities that they could follow, and playing the guitar is obviously something that's pretty attractive for a lot of people. And in turn, it will also lead us to having a much wider and larger audience in the future, because even if only every 5th or every 10th is sticking to playing the guitar, it will increase the overall amount of guitar players quite significantly.
Yeah, I mean, if they've almost doubled the sales, then maybe they've doubled the amount of guitar players that'll stick, at least.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I mean, there's some very dodgy maths right there, but
well, roughly.
Yeah. Let's we could even be more. Let's go. And again, with more it becoming a less male-dominated area as well. Very exciting.
Yep, that's a good point.
But that's kind of it for news. There's lots of news this week. We could talk about. Let's quickly talk about what's his name? Oh, that Ibanez guitar player.
Stefan.
The guy with the broken thumb. Steve Vai. He's now released a track. What's the track called?
Knapsack or something?
Knapsack.
Yeah, Knapsack.
And also he's joined Patreon, which is very odd for someone of his level to be joining something that's normally aimed at, or not aimed at, but certainly available to independent musicians. But I think, as we were discussing earlier, Dan, I think it might be an attempt to get with the modern way of making music, and adding access to his fans. I don't know.
Yeah. I was, we've been discussing it quite in depth, and it was quite a surprise that he would be on a platform like Patreon. But on the other hand, like you already mentioned before, it's probably not necessarily trying to steal the stage light from other upcoming players. It's more of like having a representation somewhere in a digital platform that's very, very attractive, and a lot of people are just visiting that on a regular basis. I think he's offering those kind of memberships for $5. So you get like sneak peeks, and you can listen to songs and all that stuff. So that's something for the Uber buy fan that has everything, every jam and every Pia and unlimited colors, and
Or for those who can't quite get a Pia yet, like Poo Ninja. Speaking of Patreon and stuff like that, we've had a super chat already from Rick. So Rick, thank you so much. You sent us a sticker right at the beginning of the show, and I forgot to drop it in. I'm very, very sorry.
What else do we have? Like any more quick news?
Not really. We've got lots of gear, and I want to get on to Richard, who's going to be waiting for us in about 10 minutes. So let's go. Right. Do you mind if we go to your pick of the week first?
Sure.
Because then we can go straight to Fender.
Dan's pick of the week. Dan's pick of the week.
Dan's pick of the week.
Ooh.
Oh, look at that.
Actually, that could have been your pick too, right?
It could have been, yes. I really like them. But I didn't get sent one because last time I spoke to Fender, I kind of jokingly says, "And don't send me one of those Acoustasonic things." And then they released one that I actually really like, and I think they actually listened to me. So no, I will not be having a video in the near future with an Acoustasonic Jazzmaster. But Dan, your pick of the week. I don't want to talk all over it.
No, it's all good. It's all good. I was actually hoping for you to get one of those, because it will be interesting to see how you treat it, because you're a very versatile player. You try to dip your toes into metal, and you play funk and all that stuff. So I would love to see how well that guitar can do, because I watched like two reviews so far, or let's say presentations. Mm-hmm. One was Paul David's. Mm-hmm. And I liked this video a lot because it was a very nice and very nice sounding song that he played, and it was well composed and it sounded great. But on the other hand, it also clearly showed what that guitar cannot do. And I was a little bit I was giggling a little bit when I was checking the video, because I think the marketing statement said it's neither an acoustic nor an electric. What is it? But they don't answer that. So you either got to find that out, or you just say, well, it's nothing, or I don't know. I just had a good laugh on it's neither an acoustic nor an electric, because it's somewhere in the middle. So it's is it the one thing or is it the other thing? So you got to find it out if it suits your needs.
What do you think? I was at the factory and the Fender place when they released the first set of Acoustasonics, of the new ones, and they were so happy with them. And I liked the telly, the look of the telly, and I wasn't too fond of the Strat, because it brought back memories of pub rock bands in the 90s. I don't know. I just think the Strat one looks wrong. In fact, we've got some more photos. I think this is like the comparison. Yeah. There's the Strat, the Jazzmaster, and the telly. I liked the telly, but I really liked that Jazzmaster. I played one when I played live with the guys at Tolman, and it was nice to play. I don't see an issue with the people that hate on them. However, I think they're very expensive for what they are. Mm-hmm. I think if they brought one of those out built in Mexico, or even if they could somehow do a Squire one, that you need to make those things affordable. It's out of the, I don't know. What am I trying to say? 1,600? Is that what it is, or even more?
I think 1,750.
1,750. It's a lot of money for something that I would say is an experimental instrument.
Yeah, it's like it fills a gap that or a need that you probably haven't even known that you have like in advance. So it's something like you got a gig and you can't bring an acoustic because it's too bulky, but you need that acoustic sound. But there's the thing, I've been playing piezo equipped guitars earlier, and I was really intrigued to kind of compare that, let's say, Acoustasonic with an Music Man JP6 or something, which is a 100% electric guitar, plus it adds some of the piezo sound. So that would be interesting to see how those kind of tones differ, because the JP6 would be a more metal oriented or rock oriented guitar, but it can do beautiful cleans with the piezo bridge. So it'll be interesting to see what is more like the convenient catch-all for basically everything you could need on stage.
One thing I got from playing I think I played the Strat version. No, it was the Tele version I played. It doesn't feel like I played acoustic for years, more than electric, and the feel of playing an acoustic, that beat, those frequencies resonating in your chest, and sort of really feeling the instrument. And you didn't get that, or I didn't get that from that Strat that I played, Tele that I played. So it's more, I don't know. I'm withholding judgment at the moment in the hope that Fender respond to my MySpace messages and send me one to try out so I can actually inform you with an educated opinion. There is, of course, Sting on screen right now if you're watching the video version of this. Interestingly, Dan, that mic shield thing that he's using is from Aston Microphones, who recently got picked up by Behringer. So it's nice to see. Oh, he's reading from an iPad Pro and all sorts. It looks, I don't know what's going on in that photo, but it looks very exciting. And even Sting uses a clip-on tuner.
Yeah. I was sending you the picture just to make a point that they sent one of these to Sting, but not to you, which is kind of sad. Anyways, talking about finishes, because not everyone can watch the live stream. I find the finishes actually pretty appealing, especially the black one with the matte black top, and then you've got that brown mahogany tone to it. Apart from that, I think they have like in the middle you see the ocean turquoise, which is kind of neat, and they have a tobacco sunburst, which is like the classical choice. Arctic white, which is kind of red. With that kind of bevel, that I really like that. What?
Just read.
What?
Just reading the chats. The fact that they sent one to Gordon and one not to me, and Michiel wrote, "That must sting."
Oh,
that's an awful, terrible joke. I love it. It's fantastic. Sorry, everybody. I'm really scraping the barrel. I don't know. It surprised me that it made me laugh. Michiel, I love you. Thank you for that. We're going to have to move on, Dan, because we've got Richard waiting for us in the green room.
Just want to make one point. What annoys me about Acoustasonic is the sound hole, because it's so round even inside. It kind of irritates me. It doesn't look like an acoustic, because an acoustic is kind of has not sharp edges, but kind of it's kind of well defined. But here it's almost like a wormhole, where all the picks will go. Yeah, that's my point.
I kind of agree with you, but I don't know what to say. It is odd to look at. It is odd to play as well. It's odd to touch. I had to put my finger in it when I found it. I was like, let's have a good feel of that one. And I've never had to do that with an acoustic before. I've never done that with a Taylor or a Martin, but that Acoustasonic, put my finger right in it.
No, it's not a glory hole, Mr. Koss.
Let's move on to this. Your second pick, sir. Your second pick.
Yeah. Do you know Emily Wolf?
I don't. I do not.
You should check her out. I think she's a very profound fuzz user. I think she likes.
When I say I don't, I'm aware of who she is. I'm aware of some of her music from social media, but I could not name a song. I could not. I did know she was coming up with this guitar though, because I recognized the Sheraton Stealth, or Sheraton, Emily Wolf's new signature model from Epiphone.
From Epiphone, yeah.
It's got the
Yeah.
Trini Lopez diamond cutouts. So
Isn't
I know-
that cool?
I know
mean,
this is your pick, but they are going to sell so many of those.
Yeah. I'm not necessarily an Epiphone fan at all, but I'm really digging that they are kind of offering a signature model for a female artist that is, doing a great job in, making music and pushing the envelope of, her style of music. And she's got a very cool, rough and edgy tone, and I like that a lot. And plus, it combines all those kind of cool features that kind of do not belong together, and it blends them together to a very cool-looking guitar with the stealth look, and like I said, the diamond F holes and the vine inlay on the headstock, but the block inlay on the fretboard. I'm really digging the looks. It's pretty cool. Looks like the B.B. King's daughter or something like that. Lucille's daughter. That guitar would be her daughter.
Yeah, the rebel teenager.
Yeah, correct.
Okay. We'll go with that for a little bit. Especially there, it looks very BB King, very Lucille. Only 3 knobs, so we're going master, tone, 2 volumes.
Yeah.
I don't know the answer to that. It's a complete guess. Let us know in the chat if you do know. I do think it's very, very expensive again for an Epiphone. It's over 700
like
over
800?
700 euros.
Okay.
It's really up there. I did have the price up, but I've lost it now. But it reminds me that Epiphones are not as cheap as they used to be. I remember Epiphones being sort of 300, 400 for a standard Les Paul, and now they're sort of double that, which either shows my age or, And speaking of that, I've got a Willhaben search out for a Sheraton. I want the Noel Gallagher Sheraton with the Union Jack on it. And it's one guitar that I definitely do not need, but would love to add to my collection at some point in the future.
All right.
Rick says that you seem to focus on holes a lot, Dan, which I agree with him.
I'm not going down that rabbit hole.
Oh dear. Oh. Yeah, so more pictures.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a wolf on the back
cool.
of the headstock. Look at that. That's worth at least 300 euros. Right. I'm in.
That's a nice detail. I like it.
Okay, don't forget we're going to be playing Buy, Borrow, or Burn. So we've got 4 picks this week. So we've got the Epiphone. I was going to say Lucille then. The Emily Wolf and the Jazzmaster Acoustasonic. Should we move on to my pick and then get Rich in?
Yep.
Here we go.
Andy's pick of the week.
First up, an amplifier, Dan. A solid-state amplifier from Quilter. And it's called the Aviator Cub, and it's a 50-watt solid-state amp that I was going to say models. I don't know if it's fair to say models, but it sounds like 3 different Fender-style amps, the Tweed, the Blonde, and the Black. So you've got the Fender Tweed.
Sorry.
Why is that funny? What are you laughing at now?
When you said the blonde, the black, it was I was just going somewhere in a direction I didn't want to go.
You went to an internet meme. Okay, fair enough. Tweed, of course, is the Fender Tweed. Come back to me, Dan. The blonde is I'm guessing the twin reverb, and the black is the 65 Deluxe Reverb, which is one of my favorite amps, and I do indeed use it mostly in my videos. So I want to try this because it's a solid state. I think modeling amp makes it sound less than it is. The interesting thing is that the price of this is 599 euros.
All right.
So you're getting 3 Fender sounds, a Quilter amp, which they make some of the best solid state amplifiers out there, possibly the best. Certainly one of the best that I've played. And you got a 12-inch Eminence speaker, a lightweight cabinet. If it sounds any good, I could see me having one of those.
All right.
Please behave yourself in the chat. You're making Dan giggle. So there's the 3 inputs. I don't know if oh good God. So anyway, that's the Aviator Cub from Quilter. That's my pick, and we're moving on to my next pick. Is the Line 6 Pod Go Wireless, which is a pod, and you can go with it, but this time it's wireless. So you've got this little transmitter that goes in the back, and it becomes wireless.
Yep. That is smart.
Yeah, I think it's the Pod Go is really, really good. I played one at the Birmingham Guitar Show 2020, yes. And
you sound like an old man. I tried that. It was in 2020.
Way back in 2020 when we could touch people and converse in public. 629 euros, roughly, which is what Tom has got it going for. I'm not sure the price is official. A little spot in the back for your Relay G10 T2 to plug into, and I'm guessing it's also a charging port as well. That's a great addition to something that's already great. So it's got some of the effects of the HX effects. It's nice and pretty, nice and colorful. I think that's
it.
Yeah.
Yep.
What do you think of the price?
We'll see where it's headed. At the moment, I think that there's not a lot of fluctuation, especially because the supply is not there. But I could totally see that being sold at a very good price in the near future. If the next generation comes out, or any kind of updates. That's always the neat thing about those like more modern pieces of gear. If you wait a little, it's like with the new iPhone, you can get a pretty good deal and still have a great tone. So.
I agree.
I would wait. If I was in the market for that thing, I would wait a little bit and be patient.
Good tip. Well, Max Solo is in the chat, and he says he has a Pod Go, which is still waiting for a video. Come on, Max. Give us that video. I need that Max Solo opinion on that one. Speaking of opinions, Dan.
Yeah.
Buy, borrow, or burn. Let's go to the chats. So we've got, thank you, Rosalie, again, for these little flags that she brought for us, made for us, sorry. We've got the Podgo from me. We've got the Aviator Cub from me. Where is Dan's? We've got the Emily Wolf Epiphone Sheraton and the Fender Jazzmaster Acoustasonics. Which would you buy? Which would you borrow from a friend? And which would you burn? There are 4 things, so one thing actually gets ignored, which doesn't really work. We need to work on this section a little bit. But Dan, which would you buy?
The Line 6, but after some waiting time.
Really? I did not expect that. You'd buy the Pod Go.
Why not? I think it's pretty handy.
Not knocking. I just the way you were talking about it, I thought you were going to completely ignore it. Okay,
No.
I would buy
nice
the Quilter. Device. I'd buy the Quilter, I think. I'd need to play it.
Okay.
But out of all the gear this week, that's the one that turns me on the most. If I may go ahead with my borrow, I would borrow this Jazzmaster Acoustasonic.
No.
Yeah?
No, because I would borrow it from you.
Oh. Well, I'd borrow it, and then I think I might get on with it well. I like the quirky offsets, so you're also going to borrow the Acoustasonic. That's good. Before we go for burn, let's check the chat. We've got Poo Ninja would buy the pod, borrow the blonde and the Epiphone, and burn the Fenders. Okay. Sarang would buy Epiphone, borrow the Quilter, and burn the Acoustasonics. Bergie in France would burn it all. Okay, thank you. I don't think you really understood the point of the game, mate, but it's nice that you're playing. Buy the Quilter, borrow the pod, burn the Acoustasonic from Michael. I'm expecting quite a lot of hate for the Fenders. I'm expecting. Rescue gear. Oh, this is so nice. Buy the Fender for me, the Quilter for you, Andy, and burn the rest. I'm assuming that's Victor.
Nice.
Thank you, Victor. Valeria, let's hear what Valeria has to say. She will burn the Fender, buy the Podgo Wireless after signing hers. Okay, so she's already got Podgo, and borrow the Quilter.
Nice.
Yeah, okay, that's nice. One more. Let's read out 2 more. Brisley Adams was distracted by the whole story. I'm sure he means the entire story. What's with the Cub? Podgirl wouldn't mind buying Acoustasonic only in the Squire version. I think that's a really relevant comment. I think if they bring out a Squire version, I think they're going to nail that one. And Artie Smudge would buy the Fender, borrow the pod, and burn the Epiphone. Sorry. Don't be sorry. You just played the game.
Yep.
Okay. Burn, Dan. Which one are you going to burn, my friend? Got to be one of them.
The cup, because I can't keep my composure when it's around.
You burned the cub. How dare you?
I would giggle like a 4-year-old girl when it's around. Whenever I just plug my guitar in.
That's fair. I don't think I can show that on screen with you being on there. In that case, what would I have to burn? I'm going to hate myself for this, but it's just by process of elimination. I have to burn Sting. No, I have to burn the Epiphone. I'm really sorry, Emily Wolf.
Oh, Emily.
Only through process of elimination, and I think it's too expensive.
Fair point.
I think it's too expensive. If that's the official price, I would like to see Epiphones come down in price again.
But here's the thing, you remember when we talked last week about the containers?
Yes.
Prices have to increase because at the moment, if you are paying like 2 times or 3 times the price of a regular container, and
that's true.
Every single unit has to increase in price a little bit. So yeah. But actually, I'm actually eyeing on getting Emily Wolf to the podcast. That would be cool in a future episode.
In that case,
should be a great guest. But then we just ignore that we said you.
Remember that time Andy said he'd burn your guitar? No. But only through process of elimination. I can't burn the pod because I think it's useful. Can't burn the Acoustasonics because everybody's burned all the rest of them, and I actually want to try one. I have to. The Cub. Now that Dan makes him laugh, I have to buy that. And what was the other one? There was something else. Never mind. Anyway, Emily Wolf, very sorry. Please join us. And Celebrity Skiing was by the band Hole. Oh, I see what you did there, Artie Smudge. I fell right into that one. All right. I would love I'd love to bring Richard Shaw on the show right now, the guitar player from Cradle of Filth. I'm very excited to have him join us. Oh, he's just calling Dan right now.
Yep. Hey. Yeah, we're ready.
He's on Skype. Right. He's watching the show. I am not brave enough to add him to this Skype chat, Dan. What I'm going to do, I'm going to hang up and call again, like we do in this very smooth transition, which will be me saying, oops, are you there? So, Dan, I'm going to hang up on you, my friend.
Yep.
And you can answer whoever that is, and I'll do another chat in a moment. So, podcast people, live YouTube people, it is just you and I right now. Dan is gone. There will be no more laughing about all that stuff. Richard is there. I've got his name ready, and I'm going to add Dan to the chat. And if you've got any questions for Richard, by the way, then please let me know. Here we go. There we go. Calling that. And then I can now mess with the guest thing. And Richard, if you come on, the guys won't be able to hear you just yet. Or rather, they won't be able to see you. But Dan is back.
Hello.
Hello, Dan. We're just waiting for Richard to answer the call. While we do that, I will read through the chat.
Hold on a sec.
Oh, there he is.
I'm here. My webcam seems to have gone to a different setting. Hold on
nice.
a sec. Let's sort this out. Good old. This is live.
Yes. Hang on, I'm enjoying seeing other people having technical issues.
Oh man,
you're looking good.
This is one hell of an entrance, isn't it?
It is. Yeah. We can always cut this. Do the Men in Black.
Hold on a sec.
Brilliant.
All right.
It's not picking it up. I can continue. I can find ways to do it.
Are you sure, sir?
There we go.
Oh, we got some exciting stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
That's much better.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Guitar Stories podcast, Mr. Richard Shaw. There's
Hello all.
imagine that people are clapping and going mad because I know that there are people here specifically for you, sir. So welcome, welcome, welcome.
Well, thanks for having me on.
You're welcome. You've got almost more boxes than Dan has in your background.
Yeah, what's wrong?
It's amazing.
Are you moving too?
All my Skype lessons at the moment always kind of talk about my background with its ever-growing boxes. But yes, I am moving. I'm actually living with the in-laws at the moment because I sold my house back in October, and we're moving into our new house next week. So it's been a long time waiting for our new house to actually be finished, the whole move to be complete. So we're nearly there. We're nearly there.
Awesome. What are the chances that you and me were both moving to the new house next week? What a coincidence,
It's really
right?
weird. I've got like 3 Skype students who are all moving like next week as well. It just seems everyone wants to move next week.
Yeah.
I'm quite happy where I am at the moment. I have no.
And where are you?
Me, I'm in Austria.
Yeah.
Upper Austria.
Someone's doing it, right? Yeah.
Yeah, well, I moved here and haven't left back.
UK.
I was in the UK. Yeah, you might guess from the accent. I'm from Gloucestershire, and
I just thought that was a really interesting Austrian accent.
no, there is. I do have a very interesting Austrian accent, but this is not it. It's it's. I just want some bread, please. Bitte schön.
Bitte schön, danke schön.
Bitte, danke.
Tar very much.
Pardon, Richard?
Yeah.
Tar very much.
Yeah, tar very much.
Is the Derbyshire way.
Is it Richard, or is there some other way that you like to be addressed?
Your Highness.
Yeah.
No, Rich or Richard, it's absolutely fine.
Okay.
All right,
Your
cool.
Highness. Rich, I'll jump between the two. May I give you a little bit of backstory before we jump into your story?
Of course.
Great. I'm going on a metal journey this year. Or it didn't really start in January. It started the end of 2020 because I grew up playing guitar in the 90s. I was really into grunge and fuzz pedals and that sort of stuff, and stayed very far away from metal, very far away, because I was more sort of less accurate, more noise than notes, and just pure angst, I guess. And then I don't know what happened to me, but maybe hanging out with Dan, I suddenly started getting into metal, and sort of it was affecting me emotionally. You know, I could get into the music, and since then I'm trying it, and as a guitar player also, you know, going into that sort of more I would say more educated playing, more precise playing, more definite playing. And through that, I started listening to your band, Cradle of Filth, and also Ghost.
Oh, why? And Ghost as well. Oh,
yeah,
cool.
so
I love Ghost.
I know that you were playing in a tribute band for Ghost.
Yeah. That's a lot of fun.
It looks it.
Getting to play dress up. I get to play dress up for my day job, but also play dress up for like other bands when I'm back home. Just a different kind of dress up. It's very cool.
Yeah.
I don't know how the guys in Ghost do it because there's zero peripheral vision when I played with that tribute band.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, so that's my story, and that's kind of why you're here. So it's not just us getting anybody on the show. I have so many questions for you that I'm hoping you're going to answer without me asking, because I feel a bit embarrassed by my ignorance, shall I say. But it's not that I don't know, it's that I'm a newcomer to this style of music. But I know that we have some people in the chat. I know Dan is very excited as well. So I guess, Dan, do you want to take over for a minute while I recompose myself? Or decompose myself?
Yeah, sure. Decompose. Actually, I've got a private question before we go into the gear talk. How do you move your guitars from your in-laws to the new house? Do you have like a company, or do you carry them like in cases, each one by themselves?
In the cases, yeah. I've got some in storage because I own about 10 guitars. So most of them are in storage at the moment. But I've got 3 of them that I keep for teaching purposes and for doing session work remotely. So I've got one that I just keep in kind of E standard, one for D standard, which Cradle tune to. So when I can do some writing and teach some down-tuned stuff and the Cradle stuff. I use that, and I've just got an acoustic as well, again for teaching and session purposes. So this whole move has made me realise: do I really need all 10 guitars? And the answer is yes, I do, because I missed them, and I hope they miss me too.
Yeah. Probably.
Yeah.
So what would be your number one guitar if you had to narrow it down to just one, like the do-it-all guitar?
What that I own?
Yeah.
Oh, this one here. I'll get it out of the case. Hold on.
Oh,
This one. This is my 1993 PRS Custom 24.
Oh wow.
So yeah, with the old tiny headstock writing and all that stuff.
That's pretty cool.
This thing's a workhorse, all original. I bought this on tour in Germany back in 2015.
Oh, wow.
And they tried to sell it to me saying it's a 1992, and I was like, it's not a 1992, it's a 1993. I want €100 off it. So I was kind of cheeky. But like, how do you know? And it's like, it's really easy with PRS because it says on the back. And it says on the back of headstock what year it was made. So it's like there's no getting out of it. But this thing plays like a dream. I've got friends of mine who hate PRS guitars, like our guitar tech at the time, who worked Cradle for years and years and years. He was notoriously didn't really like PRSs. He was very much a Gibson and a Fender guy. He played this in the guitar shop with me and said, if you don't buy it, I will.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
And everyone who's played it, regardless of what company they have loyalty to, they've gone, there's something about this guitar. It's just, it's got some kind of mojo. But I've got this one, and then I'll show the other one, which this one is, I don't want to sound pretentious, but that should be well known to Cradle of Filth fans. This is the one that basically I've played every single show. Pretty much, apart from the first tour I did, this has done every single show. And this one, I got this in Canada because my main guitar at the time, actually my main and my backup, didn't arrive. It didn't actually go on the plane from London to Canada. And they're like, oh, don't worry, your guitars will arrive this time tomorrow. And we're like, well, this time tomorrow we're on stage. So what are we going to do? So we went to a store in Steve's Music in Montreal, and they had that. This is like one of the first S2s. They hadn't had the S2s in the UK at the time. And it came in that morning, and they had this one and like a dark green coloured one. And I was like, I want to try that because I like my single cut stuff for Cradle. And I fell in love with it, bought it and brought it back home with me. And it's been used on the Hammer of the Witches album. It's been used on all my electric guitar parts on the new album. That's not come out yet. But I've changed the pickups in it to the Seymour Duncan Alpha Omegas for Mark Holcomb signature pickups.
Oh, right.
Because I tracked the Cryptoriana album with the Mark Holcomb signature PRS, and the producer was like, "Those pickups are insane. See if you can get them in the main Cradle live guitar." So I got hold of Mark. Mark being a Cradle fan and me being a Periphery fan, hit it off, and he got in touch with Seymour Duncan, and they sent me a set out, which was really cool. Changed the bridge just for the better intonation and all that on the road, and I shaved the neck, so it's been shaved down just for anti-sweat on when it's live shows and stuff. So the Custom 24 is more of a studio thing. We won't really see that on Cradle of Filth shows, but this is the workhorse that's been around the world all times, and it's got the scars to prove it.
All right.
Can I ask about the neck?
Yeah.
Have you oiled it, or what's the deal with the neck now?
Well, that was just because I'll be honest with you, I didn't do it myself. I say I didn't do it, but from what I gather, it was just take the lacquer off. I believe it was oiled, but my guitar techs don't seem to do anything to the neck that I know of. They just kind of leave it as it is. And my backup's exactly the same, but my backup's in storage at the moment. So this just stays in D standard or drop C for the Cradle of Filth stuff. And I love it. This has got a lot of miles on it, a lot of love.
Awesome. SC250. That is a what's the color called? Is it charcoal black or anything else?
I think this was elephant grey, if I remember correctly.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay,
Elephant
okay.
Grey, I think they called it, but I'm not too sure because it seemed like pretty much instantly they changed the S2 range a little bit. So it's kind of like when they first came out, the S2 range. My backup guitar is very different to this one. It had the scratch plate on it and different color options. So I was very lucky to get this one because it suits the aesthetic of Cradle as well.
And do you differ in terms of the string gauges that you're using depending on the tunings, or is that something where you're pretty consistent?
I'll use in E standard. I'll use 10 to 46, but I'm thinking of going up to 11s for E standard. But at the moment, I'm on 11 to 56 for D standard. So I just because obviously Cradle you use a lot of a tremolo picking, and when we're playing live, naturally there's that little bit extra bit of adrenaline. So I tend to hit harder when I'm playing live, and I find that instead of having a 52, if I just have a 56, kind of overcompensates for me getting excited. So the tuning is a little bit better.
The adrenaline gauge.
It is the adrenaline gauge. Like weirdly enough, in the studio, I still use 11 to 56 in the studio, but that's because I'm more doing the drop C thing as well. And I've kind of gotten used to 11 to 56, even when I'm just tracking guitars or playing at home. So I don't know, maybe with every other tour, I'll go up another gauge because I kind of get used to it playing in a studio situation or a practice situation. Then when I go to play live, I find myself hitting the strings really hard again. I don't know if I need to go up another gauge or what, but we'll see. Obviously, whenever we can eventually go back on tour again, that's when I'll find out.
Awesome. And just one more question about the Custom 24. That's an amber finish, right? And it's got those kind of old school moon inlays, right?
Yeah, this has got the moon
inlays.
I always wanted this guitar because I always associated PRS because I've been using PRS since I was 16 when I got remember the first ever Santana SE.
Yes.
Version
sure.
One. That was the first one where I was like, oh my God, I can finally own a PRS.
Which color did you get?
I got the red one.
Me too.
I think there was 4 colors at the time, and the red one just, I don't know, there was something about it. And I was like, right, I finally own a PRS. And I got a job on the salad bar at Morrison's just so I could buy that guitar.
Brilliant.
And I did. And then weirdly enough, 6 months later, a friend of mine at school came in with a real custom 24. A real American one. And I was like, how the hell did you afford that? Bear in mind, we're like 16. And he told me about this brilliant thing called finance. And I was like, oh, no, game over. When I realized, monthly installments, I can own any gear I want. That was dangerous. So, yeah.
How much salad do you need to sell for a Custom 24? That's a lot of salad.
That was a lot of salad. I think that the going rate was like £3.20 an hour, something like that, when I was 16. So it's like that was a lot of salad.
Man.
Oh shit!
I went into to what's now PMT, so it would have in Bristol, and with the intention of buying a Santana, and the guy just kept handing me more expensive PRS guitars till I got to about $3,500, and I walked out with nothing because I could not then buy the Santana having played the $3,000 one. And I remember going out there being so confused.
It's a weird one because I still got that Santana SE. And COVID thing, like when I was teaching in person, going around people's houses and stuff, that was still my main teaching guitar. Yeah. And I still love that thing. It's the SE range has continued to get better and better and better. Like I say, I've got the Mark Holcomb SE that I recorded the Cryptoriana album with, and I'm that guy who's on PRS forums and stuff, and I mentioned that I used it to record an album, and you get all the PRS purists going, "What? You used an SE on an actual album, not like a demo?" And you're like, "Yeah, amazing guitars. They are brilliant guitars, and the SEs have continued to get better and better and better. So the S2s, the cores are always as good as ever, but their finishes are just getting more outrageous. And it's you could probably tell I gush over PRS, but I've been a fan since like the early 2000s, thanks to the new metal scene of the early 2000s when it seemed like every band was using a PRS
and Messe.
And being a Santana as well. So
Do you remember back in the day when they released the Asian version of the PRS, the Santana SE, that there was, I don't know if that was just a story that had been told in Germany, but there was that rumor going on that like when they presented it to Santana, that he assumed that it was the US made guitar. I don't know if that's just marketing, blah blah, or stuff like that.
Story, like you say, I don't know what's fact and what's fiction.
Yeah,
It sounds like the perfect dream to go, look, if you buy an SE,
yeah,
all the young kids, all of you buy an SE. Himself said, but I don't know. It worked with me because, like I say, being a fan of, it seemed like around the early 2000s, all my favorite bands who were using Les Pauls, or most of them, I should say, were moving to PRS. And I was like, well, there's something in this. And then when I actually was looking to buy a Gibson Les Paul, and every single one I just didn't like. When I knew about finance, I was like, right, I tried out about 20 Les Pauls. And the guy in the shop was like, well, here's a PRS. I was like, oh yeah, I didn't think about that, because I had my heart set on a Gibson Les Paul. And I already had the SE at home anyway. And then I picked up one PRS and I was like, this blew all the Les Pauls out of the water. Mm-hmm. But saying that, I would still love a Les Paul because I still try them out all the time. And the ones that I seem to like are the ones that are ridiculously out of my price range. So I seem to find the holy grail of Les Pauls. And it's like, how much is that? Oh, 12 grand. Okay, never mind. So yeah.
That's hard to justify, but as it's your job, then
it is hard to justify. Especially, that's the thing. It is my job, and it is tax deductible to a certain extent. But,
very important.
But at the same time, you're thinking there's other things I could spend money on. I am a geek, like a gear geek. But over the years of playing so many different guitars and buying and selling so many different guitars, and over the years, I think I've just got to the point where I know what I want for what I need, if that makes sense. Especially I've been in Cradle of Filth for 7 years now, and just done my third album with the band. We're writing my fourth album with the band right now. And over the years, you kind of whittle it down to, right, this is what I need for the job at hand. Mm-hmm. Like, I like all kinds of guitars, but do I need it for what I do with Cradle? Do I need it for whatever session work I'm doing? Mm-hmm. Probably not, because I've got a PRS that has covered me for every single musical scenario that I've done since I became a professional musician, like 15 years ago.
Oh.
So
let's talk about your guitar story, because I was going to ask you if you're into gear, but it was very clear that you are when your eyes lit up and you started speaking very, very quickly about all your two guitars. That was really cool to listen to. Guitar story. I saw a video of you on YouTube where you were giving a masterclass and you were talking about, someone asked you, can you play country? Yes. Can you play jazz? Yes. Can you play funk or whatever? Yes. And you were talking about just saying yes to everything. So can you talk to us a little bit about being a professional guitar player, and then maybe how you joined Cradle?
Yeah, well, the quickest backstory, picked up guitar when I was 11, and I've always just been into loads of different styles of music. My mum and dad weren't musicians, but we always had music on in the house, even if it was just on the radio or MTV or whatever. And I just picked up guitar because of the greats like Queen, Zeppelin, Metallica, every kind of traditional kind of rock band you could think of, like any other 11-year-old's kind of story, picking up guitar. And to fast forward, when I was 18, I went to the Academy of Contemporary Music in Guildford, and that was the eye-opener for me, because I knew before I went there, I was like, okay, I want to be a pop session guitar player, and I still would love to do that, like playing guitar for all these pop artists. I think would be a lot of fun. Do that or do musical theatre, and that was the thing. And then it occurred to me, like when I got to ATM, it's like, right, if you want to do this, you need to know your fretboard theory. You need to know how to sight read. You need to have a good ear. You need to have really good rhythm chops, get really in the pocket. Like the chord knowledge needs to be second to none. And it was really strange. Like the need for me to be able to like sweep pick and tap and all the crazy metal guitar acrobatics, like, because I was a huge Steve Vai fan. Like, I just wanted to be the next Steve Vai, as I'm sure every young guitar player wanted to be around that time. And I was like, well, Steve Vai went to music school, so I'll go to music school. And then as I was at ACM, I was kind of being introduced to like all these different players who were introducing me to different styles of music, but probably other styles I was like, okay, I'm not too into that. But because they were really into it, they'd show you the cream of the crop. So next thing you know, I'm getting into jazz. I'm getting into kind of some, I don't know, South American metal that I'd never heard before in my life. You know, you're hearing some kind of German pop that I would never have heard otherwise. And it really broadened my horizons. And then obviously having the teachers and all the people there, and you're kind of like learning from a little bit of everybody. So I kind of gave up on the whole metal thing, and well, not gave up on it, because I had bands back home that I was like, I'm still playing rock, I'm still playing metal just for fun, but this is never going to be a career, ironically. So I went home and did the whole teaching guitar thing, because I was like, well, I'm going to go home. I can either go to stay in Guildford or move to London and be the struggling musician like everybody else is, or at least I can go home back to Derbyshire, live with my parents and be a struggling musician, but somewhere else. And so I went for that option. But then I realized, in a weird way, as cocky as this sounds, I don't mean it to sound that way, but it occurred to me, I was like, well, where I was, there wasn't many people doing what I was doing. Like people needed guitar teachers to a certain ability, and they didn't seem to be able to find one. So that's when I was like, okay, I'll stop teaching out of necessity to go, well, I don't want to go back to working at Morrison's on the salad bar. I'm gonna teach guitar because it's a stopgap. And then I ended up finding I loved teaching guitar through teaching, because I was teaching in primary and secondary schools and colleges. They're like, oh, we're doing like a school show. Would you play guitar for the school show? You read music. Here you go. And that's, weirdly enough, I got into playing in amateur and semi-pro kind of musical theatre stuff. And I was like, well, this is it. I'm earning a living as a guitar player. This is amazing. I could pay the bills playing guitar. Not exactly that was the dream, just to earn a living playing guitar. I'd already achieved it at like 21. Like, I get a call out of the blue from a guy called Matt Rowley, who I've known for years because he'd been like producing local bands and stuff, guitar for a musical that he played. He was doing the sound for. So when Cradle of Filth were looking for a guitar player, it was getting pretty bleak. It was about 4 or 5 weeks before a tour was meant to start, and Paul wasn't going to do the tour. So they started asking the crew. They were auditioning people all over the world, but none of them were getting a tape in time, like an audition video. And that became pretty serious. So they go, right, okay, we need the crew to ask around, see if they can ask anybody.
Was it, then, just a question, was the material so challenging that they weren't able to get that in, or were there any other reasons for that?
I really don't know. That's the thing. I really don't know what was going on. Can you still see me and hear me?
You
okay?
fine. The picture's getting a little bit rough.
Just checking. I don't know.
I am fiddling with it a little bit to...
That's weird. Okay, see what I can do, my end.
Yeah, please carry on.
But yeah, I don't know what it was. They kept asking me if of auditions, and like, well, we'll give you an extra few days to get the tracks in. And I was asked to play Thulu Dawn and Born in a Burial Gown, and I got the audition tape in that day, and they were like, well, this guy's serious, because he's learned these 2 songs like only a few hours after we called him. He's got the audition tape ready. So then it was like, oh, well, he's in, right? And I still to this day thought I was in because I was the cheapest option, because I was the only guy from the UK. So to this day, I still was like, well, if anybody else from the UK would got it, they would have got the job. So that's the way I thought about it. I was like, okay, I'm the cheapest option. I was only meant to come in to do the one tour, European tour. Thank you very much. fill in for Paul, get paid, go home, put it on the CV. Thank you very much.
There you go.
And then when
All
we were on the way home from that show, from the last show, which was in Berlin, on March 1st, 2014, that was on the way home, Danny just turned around to me and said, well, do you want to keep doing it? Because Paul's not coming back and we like you. Do you write music? Because up until then, I was only a session guy playing the songs that had already been written. And I was like, yeah, I write, but not necessarily in this style, but I can give it a go. and I've been in the band ever since. So I must have done something right.
Yeah.
I've not been sacked yet.
For the first tour, when you filled in for Paul, did you bring your own gear, or were you supposed to play like instruments that were in the same style? Like, because he had a SE signature guitar, right?
Yeah, he had a signature SE, and he had like a private stock.
All right, okay, yeah.
Which was gorgeous. That thing was absolutely amazing. Unfortunately, I've never seen it up close, but because obviously I've not been in the band at the same time as him, so you never got to see it. But I think it's just a weird thing that I happened to play PRS.
All right,
and
okay.
I used a combination of single cuts and double cuts, but I gravitated towards the single cut more to separate myself from Paul, because I already knew we already used the same brand. So I'm going to use single cuts just to separate myself away from him a little bit more. But that was it. I was just told literally bring 2 guitars, a main and a backup. Everything else will be sorted for you. They had like amps in storage. Back then we were still using heads and cabs that were mic'd up. So I was back on that first tour. I was using a Messe Boogie dual rectifier and a Rooster 2x12 cab. Have you heard of Rooster?
No,
never before.
Everyone I talked to, it's literally one of the best cabs I've ever heard in my life. I don't know where it's based. I need to do some research to try and find one, because the way we had that sound hooked up, this was the first time I ever had a guitar tech, first time I was ever on a tour bus. And the guitar tech, Asti, he basically, because I love Messe Boogie amps, but I never seem to get a good sound of it out of it myself. It's almost like there's this secret to dialing it in. And Asti knew the secret. I tried it. I was like, it just feels like it's lacking something, but they're amazing amps. I don't get it. He literally spent like 2 seconds tweaking it, play that. I was like, oh my God, that's amazing, especially through that Rooster 2x12 cab.
We could possibly help you out here, Richard. So we've got people watching us live. They've got internet. There are 46 people, right? We've got 46 potential Googlers for you. So what was in the Rooster? What speakers?
I have no idea. I'm going to have to do some digging around to see if Cradle still have that 2x12. Because we've not used heads and cabs live for quite a long time, since about the tail end of 2014, weirdly enough.
Wow.
So that was the last time we used heads and cabs, and we've been going digital ever since. We've used all kinds of stuff digital.
I know you've been playing the more preamp lives. Sorry, Dan.
No worries.
What are you running now, digital?
That's a very good question, because we were trying new stuff for the tour that never was because of COVID. So there's talk of us using the Quad Cortex in the future, the Neural DSP Quad Cortex. I don't know if we will, but there's talk of it happening, because we're talking with Neural DSP, at least our crew are, who are setting everything up. We're getting a whole new big production. Everything's having a massive overhaul in terms of how we do sound and lights and visuals and all kinds of stuff. So we're going to be like proper on it with technology from the sounds of it. But I mean, we went from the Messe Boogies to the Kempers. So the only reason we went to Kempers is because we were doing a tour of Russia at the end of 2014. And because we were still using heads and cabs, I remember our tour manager saying, well, we're going to have a lot of hard work even trying to rent a Marshall when we're over there, because Russia just doesn't do Marshall, or they do, but they're very hard to get hold of, let alone anything else. We can get hold of a Yerosov amp, which Yerosov amps are amazing if you've never tried them. I thought they were brilliant when I tried those over in Russia. So we went on to Kempers purely out of necessity. It was like, well, at least we can carry them. We get the same sound every night. Let's try it out. Me being an analog guy, I was like, I don't believe in it. I don't believe in it. Like the Tooth Fairy. I was like, I don't believe in digital. And then we tried the Kempers through sound check, and I was like, you know what? That does sound pretty cool, actually. That's cool. I like it. Yeah. And so we did that for a while. We tried the Mua preamps. We were using those for like a whole tour cycle throughout 2018. Wow. Then we went to the Mua preamp live. Basically the same thing, but with the inbuilt cab sim and all that kind of stuff. Like, because we were using the preamp live with the radar cab sim. Then the preamp live, we used those for a bit. And then in 2019 tour, we were like, okay, the Muas, as good as they are, they weren't quite cutting it in the mix. So we went over to Positive Grid Bias Minis. So we used those throughout all of 2019. And then we were like, they are great. They're very, very, very good. We can still find something better. And we were toying around with lots of different things. And then just COVID hit. So we never actually decided what we were going to use from that point onwards. But there's talk of us using the Quad Cortex.
That seems to be the new pinnacle.
Yeah, I'm curious to try it because I've not tried it yet. But I love Neural DSP's plugins, and I've been using them for a lot of session work that I've been doing remotely, and writing and demoing and things, and they sound brilliant. But I'm curious about the Neural DSP in a live setting, because obviously in a studio setting it's brilliant, but live and studio can be two very different beasts. So we'll see how it compares.
Sure.
So, Richard, what's the actual stage situation then for you? Like, you're only using in-ears, or do you have any kind of indicator, about the sound that you're supposed to move and convey to the audience? Is that like, do you have any cab, like side fill or anything, or is it just in-ears and that's it?
It's just in-ears. Wow. Like when I first joined, it was like very punk rock in a weird way. It was like we had the heads and the cabs, but they were off stage. But we had good old-fashioned wedges, and that's what I've always been used to. I'm that guy who, before Cradle of Filth, was used to musical theatre orchestra pits where there's zero monitoring, or pubs and clubs where there's zero monitoring, where the sound I'm hearing is basically from the 2x12 or a 4x12 that's blasting behind the back of my knees. Yeah. So that's the sound I was used to hearing live. So when all of a sudden we had a monitor engineer and I had my own wedge, I was like, oh my God, I'm living the dream. This is it. I've made it. I've made it. I have my own monitor. This is it. This is what it feels like to be a professional guitar player. This is amazing. And then we did that for a while. But Danny being Danny, as much as I love him, our singer, for those people who don't know Danny, that he'd walk around the stage and every now and again he'd get caught in the moment and he'd say to our monitor guy, turn the guitar down in this wedge. And then I'd go back to that wedge and go, where the hell's my guitar sound gone? It turns out Danny had asked to turn it down while he was performing on that side of the stage. So, but there was a decision around 2017, I think, that from all shows on the start of the Cryptoriana tour onwards, we were going to go to in-ears. And literally, these are my in-ears. I've literally got a set of Shure SE215s.
Oh, wow.
That is
pretty
it.
Standard.
Me too.
Pretty standard. So I've got a couple of sets of these. Monitor guys, as pretentious as it sounds, Monitor guys in Cradle love me because they say I'm not a monitor wimp. Because literally it's like, can you hear yourself? Yes, let's do a gig. I'm not. That's all I need. And the Monitor guys even laugh at my mix because there's barely any guitar in my mix. I have no vocals. I have barely enough guitar just to check that I'm in tune. That's about it. And I have a lot of bass, keys, and drums. So I can tell that I'm playing in time. And just, as I say, a little tickle of me, just so I can tell that whether I'm in tune or not. And that's it. Because I think it's just from years of playing pubs and clubs and not having the best monitoring in the world. But when I did do gigs where I could hear myself really well, I almost found it off-putting. It's like when you've played a Marshall stack for the first time in your life and you play a gig, because I've done this. It's probably one of the worst shows I ever played, where this was way before I joined Cradle, with one of my bands back home. And they were like, do you want to try this? I think it was a Black Star, like, stack. And I was like, yeah, let's do it. Worst decision I ever made because it was the most off-putting guitar sound in my life, purely because it was being blasted right in my head. And I've never heard a guitar. How many people play guitar with their head against the cone of the amp? That's probably the worst sound you could possibly ever have. And it's blaring at your head. And it was very off-putting and played one of the worst shows ever. And I've kind of, weirdly enough, had that same mentality even with in-ears. It was like, well, I tried turning my guitar up. And during the show, I'd be going, turn me down, because I just found it too off-putting. But I'm grateful to have any kind of monitoring. But obviously in Cradle, we're very, very lucky. We have designated techs and stuff. We make sure everything's perfect for us. But I just go, yeah, there's sound coming out, so I'm good. We can do a show.
That's great.
Sounds like a dream working with you.
And was that like a big...
It sounds like a dream working with you.
Yeah, I'm relatively easygoing. Like, I wouldn't even mind doing my own guitar tech stuff because I just love working on guitars, and I'm that weird guy who even loves restringing guitars.
Wow!
I don't know why. I find it slightly relaxing. Right. I don't know why.
Andy, you can send them. You can send your guitar to Rich.
No, I'm also that guy. I did my Strat and my Tele last night and had a really nice sort of zen moment of just, perfection of intonation, and it was really enjoyable. Especially because the kids were in bed, and it was like, well, this is me time. I'm going to spend it restringing these two Fenders.
Restringing, yeah. I've got that at home. We've got a nearly 6-month-old, and anytime there's like spare time, which spare time doesn't really exist as a parent, the number of times I've gone, I'm going to restring my guitars, and it's this weird moment where I'm like, this has become me time now. This is what I do.
You've got a boy, right?
But yeah, our son Rory. Yeah,
and is he hanging around your guitars? I've seen some posts on your social media where he's, you're holding him and the classic strumming and twanging.
Yeah, it was really cool, like, because he's in his bouncer and he's watching In the Night Garden or whatever.
Cool.
And he started shouting at the TV like a grumpy old man, which is hilarious, but at the same time you're like, calm down, kid. Whoa, where'd this come from? Use your inside voice. Like what the and then I was like, well, while he's in there, he seems happy enough. I'm just going to get my guitar out and start writing, because again, I'm trying to find bits of time between the teaching work, the session work, the book that I'm writing Cradle of Filth stuff. I was like, okay, I'm going to grab little bits of time, 10 minutes here and there. He's happy enough. I'm going to grab the guitar out. The second I grab the guitar out, he's like mesmerized, and he's physically watching my hands. He's like following my fretting hand over the thing, and we're like, this is pretty cool. And then I picked him up, put him on my lap, started strumming, worked out the melody to In the Night Garden, and he just thought I was the coolest guy ever. He was just looking at me in awe, and we're going to keep that going. So now I know I can write Cradle of Filth material with my son on my lap, and he'll love it.
Awesome.
So he started kind of dictating what key it was going to be last night, because he literally physically grabbed my hand and like that. I was like, okay, not that key then. Let's put it in this key. So yeah, really cool.
Is he going to get an album credit in the liner notes?
Yeah, I think we should, like, any song that says written by Shaw. It's not me, it's my son.
Junior.
At least you share the same initial, so you can't differentiate so easily.
There is that. Yeah.
Sneaky.
Yeah, by RS. I'll just take
Sneaky R. Shaw.
Yeah.
Oh, hilarious.
So Dan, if you want to carry on, I'm going to go through the chat and make sure we've covered everybody's questions so far, because there've been quite an influx.
Yeah, sure. Actually, yeah. There were plenty of questions. Actually, one that interested me, like from the get-go, when Andy said that you were joining the show. I was intrigued to hear, was that a big difference for you as a player when you joined Cradle, because they have that almost theatrical kind of show, and it's not necessarily kind of rock and roll and punk rocky. It's more like, well orchestrated and everything. So was that like for you with the whole procedure and the makeup in advance and then afterwards, get rid of everything and have that big crew around you? Was that how was that for you, that transition to that whole production?
Well, it was definitely fun because I've never done anything on a production scale like that.
Okay.
I'd never done the makeup and the costume thing. So that was kind of a learning experience because it wasn't like we had dress rehearsals. We literally had like 2 morning rehearsals, I think. I think we literally went through the songs twice before we played them in front of the audience.
Wow.
And that was it. There was no proper dress rehearsal, nothing like that, production rehearsal, nothing. It was like, right, play the songs in Cradle of Filth's old rehearsal room in Ipswich, and then get on the tour bus, my first time on a tour bus, get to know the band and the crew on the way to Munich, on the way to the first show, going over the guitar parts with Ashok Daniel, the other guitar player and bass player, just going, okay, am I doing this right? What part are you playing? So which harmony am I taking? Like, still going over the songs on the way to the first show. And then it was like, okay, it's like an hour before show, time to get ready. And I was like, okay, how do I do makeup? And then there was no... So it was literally like that. It was like kind of learning as we go. So anybody who saw those early Cradle of Filth shows with me and Ashok guitar, because Ashok joined the same, well, not the same day, but we played the same first show, if that makes sense. So we had to get 2 new guitar players gig ready on 2 2-hour-long rehearsals. But anyway, hence the pressure we were kind of feeling. But yeah, once we got the first show out of the way, it was like, okay, I know how this works. I was always listening to the band, always listening to the crew. You know what? Like, be a nice guy about the whole thing. Literally ask questions, learn how this works, because this is their area. It's not mine, not yet. Mm-hmm. So I was learning how things are done on a professional level. Some may argue it wasn't really that professional because there's bands that are way more professional than we are. It just depends how things are conducted on a technical level. But that was the first time I'd used like click tracks and backing tracks, even though I was used to playing to clicks and things, thankfully, because a lot of musical theatre stuff was done on click tracks. So I was kind of used to that. But I don't hear the click in my monitors. We play to our drummer, who has the click in our monitors. Okay. Sense. Yeah. So, because we've got obviously the orchestras and the choirs, so we have to play along to the backing tracks. So, I think it was more of less of a musical thing and more of a how to conduct yourself on a tour thing. Okay. Because, and I like to think, weirdly enough, my experience of living with 3 other guys when I was at university kind of helped with that, because now you're on a bus with like 12 people, and you have to know good etiquette and don't get in anyone's way. Don't drink anyone's beer that they saved for after the show. You know what I mean? All these little things that you wouldn't necessarily think of until you're on a tour. You've got to live with like 11 other people on the bus, and you learn pretty quickly.
Sounds like a good experience, but also like really, trial by fire, as they say, to really being pushed on stage and go for it. It
was.
I think not everyone could do that. Actually, not everyone could pull that.
I think it's that session mentality where it's like, okay, I've got to adapt because this gig isn't mine. It's not mine for long, even if it is mine. And that was the mentality back then, especially. And I still don't feel like I'm the permanent guitar player of Cradle of Filth. Look at their history. They've had a lot of lineup changes. So the fact I'm here 7 years later is quite surprising. But I get on with them all. We've got a good writing chemistry. Hopefully I stick around. It depends what the future holds. I don't know what the future is going to be like for Cradle. I don't know what the future is going to be like for anything. There might come a point where, I don't know, another band comes along. I go and play with that band for a bit. Or... Yeah, because I'll be honest, there have been tours that I've been offered by other bands where I'm like, I would love to play with that band, but I've got a Cradle tour to do and things like that. And so I've still got that session mentality, I think. Even when I'm off the road with Cradle, yes, I am writing Cradle music between tours and stuff, but I'm still teaching, I'm still doing sessions in kind of all kinds of styles. As I said, like I say, writing this book that I've nearly finished and all this kind of stuff. I never see it as I'm happy and settled. That's it. It's like, no, I've got to keep earning a living as a musician, doing a million things. Plus, I get bored really easily. If I was just doing Cradle of Filth 24/7, I think I would have left a long time ago. So, to be perfectly honest, but I'm very, very lucky that I get the chance to do a lot of other things. I still do the musical theatre stuff. I still do, the teaching work just the same as before I joined Cradle. So I'm a very, very lucky guy.
Sounds it. But you sound
Very
appreciative as well. So I think that's the key to knowing that you're lucky is one of the keys to life.
It's the music industry. It could, like, if anything, this past year especially has taught us, not get too deep with it. It's like, not that I think we took it for granted, but there's a lot of elements of it I think we took for granted. There was always, especially in Cradle, there was always like, oh, there'll always be another tour. There'll always be another album. There'll always be, and then now it's like, there isn't another tour. There hasn't been a tour since November 2019 for us. That's when we finished the last tour. So when are we going to tour again? Don't know. We've got tour dates booked, but whether they'll go ahead or not is a different story because nobody knows. And so if anything, not to get too hippy-trippy about the whole thing, but it has made me realise, you know what, we can't take any of this for granted. So in this day and age, I'm still incredibly fortunate that during a pandemic, I've still been able to put food on the table and look after my family using music to do that. So it's not lost on me because I know a lot of my musician friends aren't in that situation. So I'm incredibly lucky.
Plus, you have your salad making skills to fall back on, which is
I can always
highly
fall back
valuable.
on. I've still got that level hygiene certificate, and that can get me a lot of work.
You could do your own catering on the Cradle of Filth tour.
I could, you know what? I whip up a mean coleslaw. You know, as long as they're in pre-prepared ingredients.
Yeah,
because that's how it worked at Morrison's. It was like I didn't even weigh out the ingredients; they just come in ready-made bags and you put them together. That's how much they trusted the salad bar workers. You know, so, that's how it is.
I just wonder how well catering of filth would go in the market.
catering. I was trying to find something, Dan. Thank you.
Oh, yeah,
Could be a little bit off-putting to some people.
If they don't know the joke, yeah.
Well, my girlfriend can testify for this. I definitely cannot cook now, so it probably would be a catering of filth. You'd be like, what the hell is this?
Awesome.
I have two questions I absolutely have to ask you. I have to squeeze them in. Number one is, which is the first album that you're playing on for Cradle? So which album recording is you?
Which album recording is me? Hammer of the Witches.
I'm so glad you
2015
said
was my
that, because
first one.
that's my in album. That's the main one I've been listening to. And
Really?
that's
Oh, cool.
what's it? Blackest Magic in Practice is the track that got me into Cradle.
That's cool because that's my song. So that's good to know. That's
Wow.
Yeah, the riff. I love the riff. It's so it's melodic. It's simple, and it's, as a guitar player, it's not. I didn't. It took me a while to realize that you're in drop C for that, I guess.
D standard.
Okay, well, I was in something on. I'm definitely playing it wrong, but it was so nice to
I've got tabs for it. If you want some tabs, I'll fire some over.
Thank
for
you. Well, I was working my way around the fretboard. It was just pleasant to walk around the fretboard playing it. It was a really nice journey riff, you know. That makes sense.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, it was a cool song to write and a really joyous song to write. As weird as that sounds for Cradle of Filth, because I think that was the third song I'd written for Cradle of Filth. And the first two were like just trying to feel my way around. And then once we'd got X amount of songs written for the album, because we kind of all write individually.
Okay.
And so especially on Hammer of the Witches in Cryptoriana, it was like, here's my song, add your parts. Here's somebody else's song, add your parts. Like our drummer, for instance, writes all the keyboard parts on those two albums. So he's like written the drums and the keyboards, and he's like, now can you guys come up with and he's got basic guitar playing technique by those words. And he's like, here's what I kind of think I want, but I can't physically play it. Can you guys kind of embellish it? So that's kind of what we all do with the songs. And Blackest Magic of Practice was one of those where I was like, okay, we've got the fast songs, we've got the thrashy songs, we've got the gothic songs. We're missing something, like a slower tempo thing. And that's where that riff was born. And it was, I won't say it was an easy song to write, but once I got that opening riff, everything else kind of just made sense of what what the song needed. And it became a fairly straightforward song to write after that. Which doesn't happen very often for anybody who knows who writes songs. You can come up with riffs pretty quickly. You can come up with songs pretty quickly. Those ones that kind of write themselves are very, very, very rare. And Blackest Magic of Practice kind of felt like one of those for me. So yeah, it's cool that was your in. So yeah, Hammer of the Witches, and then I did Cryptoriana, and then the new one, which has been delayed thanks to COVID, which is Existence is Futile, which I can't wait for people to hear it. Really can't.
Do we have a rough, is it going to be 2021 release date?
It will be this year. Definitely. To be completely honest, I don't know how much of this I can actually say.
Everything. No one's watching. It's fine.
but the plan is basically we're going to do a live stream. May 12th, there is a live stream that's going to happen. Around that time, we're going to basically do a lot of rehearsing because we've got a new keyboard player, so we need to rehearse with her a lot. Go over the set, but we're also going to rehearse new material. The plan is to record while we're all in the same room, because that's not been able to happen for a very long time. While we're all in the same room, we're going to record a couple of music videos, do the photo shoot, because literally the album artwork's ready to go. Everything is ready, set. The problem is we don't have any new photos and no music video to promote the albums with. So once we get everybody together, it's like, right, okay, bang, 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 do rehearsals, video shoot, photo shoot, everything. And then it's just a case of whenever the record label want to release it, because once the video's done, we could technically release the album whenever we want. So fingers crossed, end of April, early May, we'll be filming those. And then it's up to the record label when they want to release it. So it will definitely be this year. I don't want to speak into it because it was meant to be October last year. Then it was meant to be April. But I assume it'll be summer, some point in the summer.
Well, looking forward then.
It's gonna be great.
Maybe it will spark Andy's interest in becoming a true metal player even further. Because I think we started with John Brown, kind of fusing him into that whole segment, and now it's you and your music. I think you're on a journey, Andy,
I'm excited.
And it's so cool to see. It's so cool to see guys like Richard, who are the pros, kind of leading the way for you to diving more into the metal thing. That's cool.
It's one of these things. It's the same way. It took me a long time. Like Andy was talking about, you're a product of the '90s guitar scene, and I was as well. But I think from the sounds of it, I was maybe a little bit younger. So I was kind of I started learning guitar because bands like Manic Street Preachers were huge. And it was kind of well, I don't really like Manic Street Preachers that much, but I've got to learn their guitar parts because that was so I kind of begrudgingly played a lot of Britpop.
Was it
indie,
Everything Must Go? Was that the album?
I think it was Everything Must Go.
So Design for Life, Australia, Kevin Carter.
Yeah, it was the one. Basically, I remember when it was If You Tolerate This.
Okay, that's a little bit later. Yeah, the next album.
That's a little later. So that was the one. It seemed like that's how I learned an F chord, because there was an F chord in that. So I was like, oh, I've got to learn this, because all my mates were into Britpop and indie, and I was like, well, I'll impress them by playing this. I wanted to play Queen and Thin Lizzy, and which wasn't exactly in fashion then.
No, very much not.
So I was learning Radiohead, Oasis, stuff like that, almost begrudgingly, but at least it was guitar based. So and now I look back on it very, very fondly, and now I've gotten back into those bands in a massive way because there's nostalgia, and now it's now I'm a little older, I kind of appreciate the songwriting craft behind it, but I didn't get it at the time. And now I think it's amazing. I think it's amazing stuff. I really do.
Speaking of songwriting, what's your usual routine when you write songs? Or do you have do you start with music? Do you start with lyrics? Do you have like a routine where you grab an acoustic on the couch and kind of fiddle around? Or what's your approach? Or do you have like a more theoretical approach to the whole process?
It's a weird one because it depends on who I'm writing for, what band I'm doing. But for Cradle of Filth purposes, it tends to be that, from my experience, I'll write riffs. I kind of do two different things. I write riffs and then just stockpile riffs. Get on my phone, film myself recording the riffs, playing the riffs, so I can remember even fret positions and stuff. So I can just watch it back and go, okay, that was cool. Yeah, that's cool. I can work on that later. That's fine as it is. That one wasn't so good. I thought it was. But to be honest with you, because I'm such a big Beatles fan, I still do the Beatles thing. I still do that to this day. And the stuff that makes a Cradle of Filth album, I use the Beatles approach. If I can't remember it the next day, it wasn't good enough.
Wow.
So if I write a riff and I can't remember it the next day, that doesn't make an album. It's as simple as that. It's the ones that I pick up the next day. I'll pick up the guitar and I'll remember it note for note, rhythm for rhythm, and go, there's something about that riff then. As weird as it sounds and almost pretentious as it sounds, it's like, okay, there's something there. Whereas the riffs that I just record and just kind of, I think I wrote something like 200 riffs for the last album, like over 200 riffs. And I recorded them, sent them to the guys, but all the ones that made the album were the parts where I could remember it the next day. And there was something about those riffs. They're the ones that make the album. So I kind of do it. So sometimes I'll start a song and see it through to its natural conclusion, which is like how Blackest Magic Practice worked. But over the years, I've realized, okay, if I just have a backlog of riffs, and me being an Alter Bridge fan, like March, I read an interview with March Monty where he said this, where what he would do, he would record the riffs, but put a little note of what key and what tempo they were. And then basically just stockpile all these riffs. And he's like, right, I need to write a song. That's in this key. And if it was within a 10 beat per minute tempo, he would see if he could like maybe speed one up, slow one down, maybe put them together like a little jigsaw puzzle. So I kind of do it both ways. I see the song through to completion and it's like a mission. It's like, right, now I need a chorus. Now I need a bridge. Now I need an excuse to shred. It's that kind of thing, which weirdly enough, the whole guitar solo thing, because a lot of Cradle of Filth fans ask me this, the guitar solo thing in Cradle of Filth land, because Cradle of Filth weren't exactly known for guitar solos, yet Hammer of the Witches and Cryptoriana and this new one is full of solos. That was Danny's idea. On the demos, there were no solos on the demos for both Hammer of the Witches and Cryptoriana at all. And then Danny was like, we should have solos. Danny was like, I always wanted solos, but for some reason the guitar players never did, so we never had them.
Okay.
But kind of Danny called him a shot. He's like, can we have some solos? And we're like, yeah, why not? And so now people get solos on Cradle of Filth records, which never really existed. But in response to the question a bit further in a bit more detail, sorry for going on a bit, but you're asking about like theoretical writing, and sometimes my music theory knowledge kind of fills in the blanks for me. Sometimes I'm like writing something and go, it needs something. It needs something else. And either I'll just blindly go for it and it'll take me like 2 days to find one note or one chord that'll mix it up. Or sometimes my musical theory brain switches on and go, you can do this. I'm like, cool. I'll do that. So sometimes, most of the time, it starts with like this kind of almost naive kind of caveman approach, just try and find something that sounds cool, which is perfectly fine. But I've got my musical theory knowledge is there to help me go, well, if I hit a brick wall, theory goes, unlock it, right, now we can carry it on. I see theory as like a time-saving skill. It doesn't make me a good guitar player because I know theory, because you can know all the theory in the world and not apply any of it doesn't make you a better player. or a better writer, but I find it's a time-saving thing. Just kind of unlocks different areas where I go, oh, I could do this. Because even if you break the rules of music theory, that's technically music theory. So it's kind of that weird thing that a lot of people don't realize about theory. It's like science. Science admits when it's wrong and goes, okay, we'll change that. Music theory is the same. It's constantly evolving. So when you break the rules of theory, that now becomes a new rule of music theory. So it's one of those weird things. If it sounds good, it is good. But at the same time, theory does help me kind of finish off a lot of parts that I'm kind of struggling to reach a conclusion for. So yeah, sorry about the rant, but that's
never apologize.
All good.
But I'm one of these guys who watches a lot of music documentaries, reads a lot of music biographies about my favorite bands and some of my not so favorite bands. I'm just curious how bands write and how they work in the studio, how they conduct themselves on tour. You know, all these classic bands. And every time I read watch a documentary or read an autobiography or a biography or something, there's always something where I'm like, I'm going to try that in a Cradle of Filth setting, see if that works. Like Heartbreak and Seance on Cryptoriana came from me doing a hybrid pick thing, because I'm more of a hybrid picker, and I was like, I wonder if I can do a Cradle of Filth song with a hybrid pick riff. And I was actually playing a lot of country music and went, well, if I tweak some notes, I can turn this into a Cradle of Filth riff. And it worked. And,
Country of Filth.
Country of Filth. And that's how a lot of my ideas come. It's like a lot of guitar players I admire. It's like this, almost like this naive what if kind of thing. You're never happy, settled with going, oh, I know everything. It's more of a, what if I do this? What if I do that? What will it sound like? It might sound crap. It might sound great. You don't know until you try it.
But maybe that's coming from your, as you mentioned earlier, about trying not to be bored. You know, you're constantly trying to entertain yourself by trying new things, and that seems to be working for you.
Exactly. I hope so, because it feels good, and obviously I'll never be the judge of whether a Cradle of Filth song is good or not, because that's up to the fans. The number of times you try and write something and go, yeah, the fans are going to love this, and I've never really done that with Cradle, but I know, having spoken to Danny about past Cradle of Filth albums, because obviously they had a big history way before I joined the band, and he has said on occasions where you go, right, okay, we can kind of guess what the fans want. It usually doesn't go down that well. So it's like you can never guess what the fans want. You kind of know the tricks and the kind of things that make Cradle sound like Cradle. So you've got this kind of melting pot of ideas that you can go, well, we can take things out of that, and we know it will sound like Cradle if we do that, but it can also backfire because you don't know. It's like if we're all fans of music, the number of times that one of our favorite bands has released an album where you're going, okay, that's what they're trying to do, but it's not quite got there. It's so it happens with every band. But at the end of the day, an album's an album. There's always going to be another one by that same band that you're going to be like, oh my god, this is even better than the one I didn't quite like before. You know, I remember Freddie Mercury saying that about the Hot Space album. He was like, it's only an album. Calm down. And it's kind of always stuck with me, where it's like, as long as you're doing what you enjoy, hopefully the fans will enjoy it as well. If they don't, hey, we'll do another album. You might like that one. You know, that's kind of how it works.
Speaking of the sound of Cradle, and having had so many guitar players and so many members, generally speaking, can we finish off with talking about your tone? Because there's a few people, and I am one of those people, who want to know about getting the guitar tone, and what's your sort of favorite or definitive metal tone that you play. And could you give us some tips on how you get there? Please.
It's a tough one, because it's what is necessarily my tone, it doesn't always fit the mix. Okay. I am part of an ensemble. It's not the Richard Shaw Orchestra. The Richard Shaw Orchestra. It's you know,
sounds good.
I'm in.
Sounds good. Trademark that. I don't know, but you know, because my part is just one part that makes the sound of Cradle of Filth. It's not the standout part. Danny's vocal is the standout part. True. And I think anybody who enters the band thinking that is not the case is a little bit of a moron. But luckily, the band we have, it's not. Nobody thinks that, which is why I think it works. We are there to write the songs for Danny to shine on with his lyrics and his vocal style. So my guitar sound, from experience, like from Hammer of the Witches, let's see if I remember this. On every album, we used a Messe 4x12. Can't remember the exact mics, but I know there were 3 mics on that cab. Hammer of the Witches, we did a blend of my guitar tone. I'm talking about my guitar tone. Was a blend because we double track. So one track was a PV 5150. The other one was a Randall RM100.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So, and we did a blend of the two, and we kind of left it up to Scott, our producer and mixer, who he's great at guitar tones, metal guitar tones. He's kind of known for that. He's brilliant. So we were very hands-on with the tone when we were tracking, but afterwards when he was reamping, he was like, okay, now that we've added keyboards and bass and choirs and orchestras, it's like that guitar tone we originally had needs to be tweaked a little bit. Just EQ. Same amps, but just EQ differently. Which makes a lot of sense. Cryptoriana, I was using my PRS Archon for that. So, and I used that for all the rhythms and all the leads. So that was, and as far as I was concerned, was an entire PRS album, like amp and guitar-wise. On the new album, I got a PV 6505, and that's the main sound that you hear on it. So PV seems to be like the main kind of metal tone for Cradle stuff, it seems. But we'll spice it up. Like on the new album, we did use a Marshall JVM on a couple of tracks. And the Archon, again, made an appearance. It's kind of weird because, not, again, sound too hippie-trippy and all that, but I'm still a big believer that the sound, it comes from your fingers. And that's what I learned at ACM. I remember, because I'm a big Richie Kotzen fan, and he came and did a masterclass at ACM, and he just used a Fender Strat, like borrowed someone's Fender Strat, and he just plugged into whatever amp was provided, and it sounded like Richie Kotzen. And I was like, now that's the kind of player I want to be. And and I've worked really hard on kind of you get a good tone. It's the same way when I do musical theatre stuff and cover gigs. Sometimes I turn up and I'm not using an amp or a guitar that's mine, but I still need to make it sound good. So I've worked a lot on making sure I can make it sound good here. So then no matter what equipment I use, it sounds good coming out. Saying that, equipment is important. You could do 90% of the work here, but if 10% of your gear is letting you down, you're not going to get that idea across. Sure. Yeah. So that's why it seems for me the kind of double humbucker setup. I mean, PV just seems to have a really good mid-range for Cradle. Like it made me laugh when I posted. Weirdly enough, it was a year today that I went in to record the new album, and it's still not out. It is what it is. But I posted a photo of the amps we were using, and what I was plugged into the PV 6505 for tracking. And somebody saw the mids were not very high, and somebody went, "Oh, the mids aren't very high. This album's gonna suck." You know, internet. But people forget, because it's this weird thing where people kind of judge guitar sound with their eyes and not their ears. PVs naturally have a lot of mids in them. So does the PRS Archon. So even though the mids might not look like it's on a lot, it's got a hell of a lot more mids than, say, a Marshall has, which you'd have, or a Messe has. So it's a weird one. So they're naturally kind of mid response, because obviously we need to cut through that mix of orchestras, choirs, drums, keys, blast beats. You know, trying to get a guitar sound to come out through blast beats is pretty difficult. So I find the PVs do a lot, PRS Archons do a lot, but I'm just a big believer if you buy an amp and or any effect pedal, whatever it is, and you really milk it for all it's worth, and you find out how that thing works and know it so well before you decide whether you sell it or keep it. You need to know everything about the amp and how it works, because you'll be surprised how you can get really good tones out of relatively cheap gear, because everyone thinks just throwing money at gear is the answer to the question, whereas those same people don't practice the actual art of playing enough.
Also, getting to know your gear is also pretty important, because you can have all the gear in the world, but if you can barely dial in a good tone, I mean, it's useless then, right? You got to use how to use your tools.
Idea. I've got some Skype students who openly admit they're that guy or that girl. They're going, yeah, I've got all the gear, but don't know how to use it, and I need to actually know how to play it. And then they come to me for lessons, kind of knowing that, and it's a brilliant thing that they've come to that conclusion. And it's amazing how many people do that. There's a lot of people. I think that's kind of, as much as I'm on here talking about guitar and gear and stuff, I think that's a kind of a problem with a lot of social media and stuff at the moment. People go, oh my God, there's this new amp that's come out, this new guitar that's come out, and they're chasing that, yet what they have is actually brilliant. They just haven't maximized the potential out of that gear because they're so worried about what the next thing is. Oh, my favorite player is using that. Oh, maybe I'll sound like them. It's like, no, you'll probably sound like them if you put in your 10,000 hours of practice or whatever it is. So, you know what I mean? It's kind of how.
I obviously can't agree with you being a YouTube reviewer, so I
but this is the
gracefully disagree.
I'm that guy who constantly stuff, and so I kind of feel like a bit of a hypocrite. Because there's always gear I'll always want and always yearn for, and I'm constantly watching YouTube videos and demos and stuff, and there's always going to be something new. And don't get me wrong, a lot of the time I do think, yeah, that would be cool. But what all that happens is I end up with lots and lots of gear, and the chances of me using it become quite slim. Yeah. The number of effects pedals I have that do not come out of the closet, it's that I've acquired over the years, where you just go, I will use that one day. And it never seems to have a reason. So there's a lot of money I've wasted on gear, but then again, there's a lot of money I don't consider wasted at all.
It's a journey,
because
isn't
it was like the perfect thing. It is a journey. It is a journey, and there's different gear for different needs and different musical situations, which is why, again, I feel like a bit of a hypocrite saying it is in your fingers and it isn't, because it depends. You don't know what that musical situation is going to be. The number of situations, like sessions, where I've gone, oh, I wish I had that Digitech Space Station. Do you remember that?
Yes,
the
I
Digitech
do.
Space Station. Oh, that was incredible!
It's on my list of gear that I would like to acquire at some point, but have no use for.
I remember that was on. I became familiar with it because Kirk Hammett used it on "I Disappear." Everyone thinks it's a warp. It's not. It's an envelope filter that was on the Digitech Space Station, and I was like, I need that pedal, and they discontinued it. So, and I'm still after a Digitech Space Station. The chances of me actually using any of the effects on it are about as high as the Zoom 505 that I still own.
Guilty.
Zoom 505 opened me up to a world of tone. I was like 13, 14 years old when I got that thing. The tone hunt began there. And like you said, Andy, it is a journey. And again, I don't like to get too hippie-trippy with it, but there is a balance between working on your craft, but then you need the tools to enable your craft to come out. Like if I was using, not knocking them at all, if I was still using like an Encore Strat,
ooh, steady,
like to play shows, it wouldn't work with the action that was about up there. But then again, that's what I learned on, and that's, you need to go through these things to realize, okay, that's not what I need for this, for where I want to go on my playing and writing journey. Mm-hmm. So I feel like I'm going really hippie.
No, it's absolutely welcome.
all good.
Richard, so you said that you give lessons. Where can we find lessons from Richard Shaw? How do we book lessons from you?
Book lessons with me, or just contacting me directly on my Instagram or Facebook page. I'm very on it with the social media, I like to think, in terms of reading all the messages and stuff. So if people just contact me on there, we'll arrange it and discuss rates, availability. Same with guest solos, podcast requests, all this kind of stuff. It's kind of, I don't have an official website or anything like that because I'm not famous enough. But it's one of those things where just Instagram and Facebook just seem to do trick for me. So people get in touch with me on Instagram and
Then
Facebook.
we'll make sure those links are beneath the video in the video description, and maybe down we can throw them in the what's it called, the description of the podcast as well, so the show notes.
Yeah, of course, yeah. Yeah, for anyone who's listening, it's Richard Shaw Guitarist on Instagram. So you can barely miss Rich there.
Yeah, Richard Shaw Guitarist on both Instagram and Facebook.
Sweet.
Oh, there you go.
Well,
Awesome.
I have got a lot of now newly acquired knowledge to apply. I've been making notes, and now I have to go and decipher them and practice, I think, is the key.
Practice is the big one, but gear is also cool.
Good. Now we're on the
Very
same page.
cool. Just as long as the practice comes first. I'm a big fan of that.
Yeah. Okay. We were so close. We were so close, Richard. I want to say thank you so much, man. It's been a pleasure learning and listening to you. It's part of my journey this year, and I'm sure you've got some similar things to say.
Yeah, it was a blast. It's usually the players that really know their stuff that are the nicest and got the best stories to tell. And we've had several guests on the podcast that shared great stories, and it was you were just another one of those glorious guitar geeks that was a joy to spend 2 hours with. So thank you so much taking the time and joining us.
Thank you for
looking
having
forward
me.
to
Like I say, I'm a fan of the show, and it's it was weird when I got a message on Instagram out of the blue from Andy going, "Do you want to be on the podcast?" I was like, "What?" I thought famous people were on that. I still get really surprised when like the guitar community kind of asks me to be involved in stuff, because as much as I want to be a part of the guitar community, and I love the YouTube guitar community is incredible. It's absolutely incredible, and I learn so much on a daily basis. I'm always watching something new, and my mind's blown with all new players and demo reviews and all kinds of stuff. But for some reason, Cradle of Filth always have been kind of excluded from the guitar community, which is kind of weird. So I'm hoping that's kind of changing with this kind of thing, and maybe extreme metal in general kind of gets a look in of going, actually, it's not just all power chords and screaming. It's only 90% power chords and screaming, but the other 10% is really cool.
I thought the 10% is makeup. Wait.
10% is makeup. 5% is catering.
That brings us to about 150%, which is exactly what it should be.
Which is exactly
More
is more. If anything, the guitar community has taught me or just direct from Malmsteen's mouth, is more, including percentages.
But we're getting some love for you in the chat as well. So we have a few regular listeners and viewers, and they've also really, really enjoyed it. And I'm sure the people listening to this in the future will also message us and message you, hopefully, and share some love. I can't wait for the new album. I'm genuinely pleased to be in the position I'm in this year, so I can enjoy something also with the new listeners, so I'm not left behind. So thank you for that. And make sure you share with us your release info, and I will be all over that.
Brilliant. Will do. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Thank you,
really
Richard.
Appreciate it.
Dan, we're going to go. I'm going to go and watch Snowpiercer now. Have you got Netflix, Richard?
I do have Netflix. Snowpiercer is in my list, but it seems to be pushed aside in favour of what Rory wants to watch.
All right, okay.
So,
I hear.
But I will get round to Snowpiercer at some point, because everyone tells me how good it is.
Dan's not quite up to date. I'm a few episodes.
It has become our routine. Yeah. A little bit, episode-wise, we're a little bit apart, but we share the same routine. Right after the podcast, we're going to pierce some snow.
Yeah. That's
very weird.
I know.
Up in the weird. Well, I hope Iggle Piggle and Oopsie Daisy don't wreck your riffs too much. And thank you to the people listening.
Yeah. I was going to say that I think Iggle Piggle and Oopsie Daisy are making my riff sound more psychedelic, if anything. People who write music for like children's TV shows and just write children's TV shows,
Absolutely.
they're on another level, man.
I've got some fun Austrian stuff to share with you then. Okay. Thank you, people,
Oh,
for
yeah.
listening. Come and join us on the YouTubes if you want to watch the show live, or if you're listening to this, then give us 5 stars on the iTunes thing, because we like 5-star ratings. And Dan, are you going to finish us off this week?
Of course, that was episode 31. Very interesting PRS-centric episode with a lot of metal. Next week, we're not going live because I'm moving. Ooh, there we go. There's the beautiful Custom 24 again. Yeah, PRS-centric. Actually, we're joined by another PRS artist in 2 weeks, which is Mark Legeri, who just recently got his signature guitar. Yeah, the Fiore.
Which looks really cool. Yeah, the Fiore looks great.
Yeah. Did you have a chance to try it yet? Probably not, right? Because of the whole COVID situation.
No, because of the whole COVID thing, but I really want to try it. If it's anything, I own a PRS Silver Sky, and if it's anything as good as that, I really want to try it.
Oh.
Yeah. I imagine it must be pretty hard to get any merchandise into UK at the moment anyway, so
I think so, yeah. It's a bit of a weird situation. But I've not tried, to be honest with you. Not yet.
Well,
in the future, definitely.
Well, we're gonna hear Mark's guitar story in 2 weeks then, and see how the whole development went from.
See if you can put in a good word for me, and see if you can send me one with a much more discount.
Okay, well that's 3 now. Damn it.
Making notes.
Yeah, make a note.
All right, everyone. Well, in episode 31, it was a blast. Everyone, train your chops. Play metal, be kind to each other, and see you in 2 weeks. Have a great night, and let's pierce some snow. Bye-bye.
Guitar Stories Podcast, your #1 show for everything guitar.